Miss Van Waus, did there come a time when you processed a Hyundai Elantra that was brought into the Lee County Sheriff's Office into the processing center?
Yes, it was.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where cars are processed in the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
A portion of our building is called the impound, and we have two sections of this impound facility, a short-term and a long-term. The vehicles are usually for processing are brought into the long-term bay, which is where I process this vehicle.
And I want to show you what's already been introduced into evidence. It states exhibits 40, I believe it's 46A and B. Show you what's been introduced into evidence. Well, it's in evidence, so let me have you look at it here. 46A. Is that the vehicle that you processed in the bay?
Yes, it is.
And is this, is 46B a second picture of that same vehicle?
Yes, it is.
I want to hand you what's been marked for identification as 47A, B, and C. If you could take a moment and look at these and let me know what they are.
Okay. These are photographs I took of the vehicle.
Move to introduce into evidence.
No objection. We'll show them admitted.
Thank you. Before I ask to publish them to the jury, let's talk about the processing of this Hyundai Elantra. Can you talk to the jury how you started to process this car, what condition you found it in when you went to the bay?
Just like a crime scene, I always start with photographs because I'm photographing the car as is how I find it. So I started with exterior and interior photographs of this vehicle, and then I started to actually do some more processing of the vehicle.
When you arrived to process the vehicle, was it secured?
Yes, it was.
And how was it secured?
The windows were closed and the doors were locked.
And how did you unlock it while you were doing your exterior documentation?
Yes, I did.
And how did you unlock it?
I used the keys that were with the vehicle.
In doing that, we've seen two photographs of the outside of the vehicle. Let me now show you State's Exhibit 47A. What is 47A?
This is a photograph of the steering wheel and dashboard, or dash of the vehicle, and it also shows the left front floor of the vehicle.
And 47B, what is 47B?
This is the left rear door that is open of the vehicle, and you can see the door panel as well as inside the vehicle from the left rear door.
And the photos that we looked at in 47A and B all came from what we see in State's Exhibit 46, the vehicle we see in State's Exhibit 46A, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Now I want to show you State's Exhibit 47C. What is 47C?
This is a photograph I took of the VIN plate of the vehicle.
And while most people may know what a VIN plate is, what is a VIN plate?
It's the vehicle identification number.
And what is a vehicle identification number?
It is a number specific to that vehicle.
Now, before you began to process the interior of the car, did you take any steps to ensure you did not contaminate the interior of the car?
I always wear gloves at all times.
And did you wear gloves when you were doing this processing?
Yes, I did.
Would you describe to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how you approach the processing of the interior of this Hyundai Elantra?
For this vehicle, I did things a little bit different because trace evidence was important in this case. So in this case, I knew I was collecting trace, so I did my first trace collection very first after I started my photograph or finished my photographs.
And how did you initially start to collect trace evidence?
I used a pair of sterile tweezers and an envelope, and I literally picked trace evidence off the floor and the seat of the left front seat and floor and the right front seat and floor.
And what did you do with that trace evidence that you picked off the floor and the seat?
I placed it inside of an envelope. I sealed the envelope and I placed it in a bag and turned it over to evidence when it was time to turn everything in.
Now, after you had collected the evidence with the tweezers, what was your next step?
In this case, I believe it was, I'm just going to check really quick. I believe I fingerprinted next. Yes, I did. So I fingerprinted the interior and exterior, or no, not the exterior, the interior only of this vehicle.
Did you collect any further trace evidence from the vehicle?
I did at a later time.
So you fingerprinted. What was your next step in processing this car?
I collected DNA swabs.
And after that, what was your next step?
Sorry, I'm checking again. That was it for the first initial processing of this vehicle. I processed it for multiple days.
Okay, so what day did you start your processing of this vehicle?
And I'm sorry, I need to take that back, I believe. I did.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Van Waus, if you would turn over your report so that you are not looking at it. If at such time as you do not remember and need to refresh your recollection, please let me know. What day did you begin your processing of this particular Elantra?
And I will need to refer to my notes. It was multiple days in this case, so I will need to refer to my notes if that's okay.
If you ask the court's permission for her to refresh her recollection from her notes
Yes,
as
ma'am.
to when she began her processing.
You may do so.
Thank you.
Judge, again, objection. Could we approach?
Overruled. When you're done refreshing your recollection, you can turn the report back over again.
Your Honor, could we at least ask what she is referring to?
Yes, sir.
I took basic information of what I did for each day and made a notes page, but it's reflective of my crime scene report.
So these are notes. This is not the actual report.
She can refresh her recollection with a crayon drawing if it works. Anything can be used to refresh recollection. You may continue, ma'am.
Your Honor, we need to approach.
No, sir. You may continue.
Your Honor, objection. We have not received any of that.
Your objection is noted for the record. You may proceed.
I began processing the vehicle on July 19th, 2015.
Did there come a time in the processing of the vehicle that you did vacuumings from the Elantra?
Yes, there was.
And when did that occur?
Again, I need to refresh for the date because this was multiple days.
You may do so.
July 28th, 2015.
And did you, I believe you walked into court with a bag? Yes.
Yes, I
If you
did.
would, if you would lift that bag for me, please. And the processing that you did, first you talked about trace evidence that you processed, gathered by use of a tweezer. Let me show you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 84. Remember, all this was previously shown to defense counsel. What is State's Exhibit number 84?
This is Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P018456, and this is trace evidence from the left front floor, which is collected by the sterile tweezers and the envelope.
And let me hand you, I'm going to hand you a set of these now. Let me hand you State's Exhibit number, I'm going to hand you a set before we start. State's Exhibit number 86, State's Exhibit number 88, State's Exhibit number 87, and State's Exhibit number 85. Starting with, let's say, State's Exhibit number 85. What is State's Exhibit number 85?
This is Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P019086, and these were vacuumings collected from the left front seat and floor of the Hyundai Elantra.
And State's Exhibit number 86.
This is Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P019089, and this is vacuumings from the right rear seat and floor.
And State's Exhibit number 87.
This is Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P019087, vacuumings from the right front seat and floor.
And State's Exhibit number 88.
Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P019090, and these were vacuumings from the left rear seat and floor.
When you talk about vacuumings, how do you vacuum a car for trace evidence?
This was also done similar to the house. It's a forensic vacuum where these canisters are placed on the nozzle end of this vacuum, and it's placed over the surface that I'm vacuuming. It's suctioning up any of the trace evidence, which is anything microscopic, hairs or fibers, into this canister. I place the two ends back on the canister, place it inside of a plastic bag, and then I place that plastic bag inside of an evidence bag.
And so for each of the areas you described, for State's Exhibit 85, 86, 87, and 88, you used a separate canister as you were vacuuming?
Yes, I did.
Move to introduce State's Exhibits 84, 85, 86, 87, and 88.
No objection.
We'll show them admitted.
Ms. Van Waus, I am not going to ask you to open those exhibits, but if you would just hold them up so the jury can see when you talk about a canister what you're talking about.
Would you like any particular one or just any of them?
Does not. Any one of those. Just list what particular one you've held up so they...
This is Exhibit 88. So through the clear plastic bag, you can see that there's a second plastic bag that's actually holding this plastic canister that has that trace evidence enclosed inside.
And Your Honor, I'd ask if if it might be published to the jury so they might see it close up, because it will not show on the camera.
Well, the bailiffs hold it up front and walk it down so they can see it.
are the type of canisters and that you just described the same in exhibit these of the same nature in exhibit 85, 86, 87, and 88?
Yes.
Now, was there a particular type of trace evidence that you were looking for when you started this trace evidence collection?
Yes.
What was that?
I was looking for hair, mostly.
Any particular type of hair?
I was looking for any hairs from the suspect or suspects or any kind of pet hair.
And as part of that, did you end up collecting evidence pursuant to a search warrant for the pets that were at the Seavers home?
Yes, I did.
And was that a cat and 2 dogs?
Yes, it was.
How did you collect hair from a cat and 2 dogs?
I actually used a brand new comb and I laid a sterile cloth down. I placed the animal on the cloth and I combed the hair off of the pet and I collected this hair into an envelope and sealed it and packaged it for analysis.
Now, going back to the Hyundai Elantra, did you conduct a pheno test or pheno tests with the Hyundai Elantra?
It's a shorthand for phenolphthalein, but yes, I did phenolphthalein testing throughout this vehicle.
And would you describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what a phenolphthalein test is?
This is a presumptive test for blood. So this is something where we can swab a surface, put a 3-step chemical on the swab, and it will turn a color pink for a positive blood detection.
Now, did you have any positive tests, any positive results when you conducted your phenolphthalein test?
I had one.
And what did you do with that area when that occurred?
I swabbed that area so not only did I collect the swab that turned pink with the phenolphthalein test, I also took another swab of that area knowing that it came up positive for blood. So I took 2 additional swabs of that area and packaged it for analysis.
Can you give me just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Van Waus, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Now, you processed this vehicle on July 19th, correct?
That was the initial date that I started processing the vehicle.
Okay. And how many days did you spend doing that?
I spent multiple days doing it, but not one after the next.
Okay. And how long was the vehicle in the possession of Lee County Sheriff's Office?
It is still in possession of the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
Now, this was a rental vehicle,
Yes.
and it was processed the processing began approximately 3 weeks after the events on Jarvis Road.
There was additional processing by another crime scene technician before I started processing the vehicle.
And that was the processing that was done in Arizona?
Correct, yes.
Do you know how many times during that period of time this car had been rented?
I do not.
Do you know where this car traveled to between the date on Jarvis Road, June 19th, and the day that you took possession of it?
I do not.
And the items that you tested and collected, they were sent where for
Which-
analysis?
Sorry, which items?
The vacuumings,
The vacuumings were submitted to the FBI.
directly to the FBI.
Yes.
Okay. The notes that you're referring to in your direct with Ms. Ross, when were those prepared?
These were prepared within the last few weeks.
Okay, so after your analysis was done, or well after the time that you examined the Elantra?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've been a crime scene technician since 2006, correct?
Correct.
And you have, according to your CV, 800 hours of training.
Over 800 hours.
Okay. In your first appearance here, I believe you broadly described to Ms. Ross that your duties are to document, assess, collect, and process. Is that correct? Do I have something wrong? Did I mistake one of them?
No, you said it right.
That's correct. Now, approximately 20% of the training that you've received has been in blood stain analysis, correct?
I've never figured out the percentage.
Well, I believe when I looked at your CV, it was about 181 hours that you
So-
spent on blood stain analysis.
It sounds correct.
Okay. Blood stain analysis is a very important part of your job, correct?
It is one of the parts of my job.
Okay. In a case such as this case, where there's blood present, it's probably more serious than in a case where blood isn't a factor, correct?
I would say yes, my training helped me on the cases where blood is present.
Okay. And you are actually the go-to person in the Lee County Sheriff's Office for blood issues,
No,
correct?
objection, Your Honor, this goes well beyond the scope of direct examination.
Sustained, that's to the question.
Nothing further.
Anything further from the state?
Just one question, Your Honor, for clarification. Anything that are in the notes to which you prepared and were referring, is there anything in there that was not in your initial reports?
No, everything is from my report.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
This witness to be retained or released?
This witness may be released, Your Honor.
Retained by the judge.
Ma'am, you're subject to recall. We'll let you know if you're needed again. Thank you.
Thank you.